well on all fronts.
Before we leave Taiwan, Mr. President, President Xi said that there was a risk of conflict with the US over Taiwan. What's your response to that?
I don't think there's a conflict, other than we don't need their strait. We don't need
on Taiwan. Mr. President Xi said there was a risk of conflict with the US over Taiwan.
No, I don't think so. I think we'll be fine. He doesn't want to see a war. And you have two things. You have the Iranian situation, and that I think we agree almost entirely, other than he's a buyer and we're not. We don't need it. And on Taiwan, he doesn't want to see a movement for independence. He says, look, we've had it for thousands of years, and then at a certain period of time it left, then we were going to get it back. They had the Korean War. A lot of things happened. We have all this. But on Taiwan, he feels very strongly. I made no commitment either way. We'll see what happens.
What about the arms sales to Taiwan?
I'll make a determination over the next fairly short period.
Well, you're not necessarily going to go ahead. It was your proposal.
I'm going to make a determination. I'm going to see. I have to speak to the person that right now is, you know who he is, that's running Taiwan.
Mr. President, did President Xi make any firm commitment to put pressure on the Iranians to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not asking for any favors, because when you ask for favors, you have to do favors in return. We don't need favors. We've wiped out their armed forces, essentially. We may have to do a little cleanup work because we had a little month-long ceasefire, I guess you'd call it, but we have a blockade that's so effective. That's why we did the ceasefire. We really did the ceasefire at the request of other nations. I wouldn't have really been in favor of it, but we did it as a favor to Pakistan, with terrific people, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister. But no, President Xi and I agree on many things, and we agree very much on trade. We're trading. Our farmers are going to be taken in. Our farmers are going to be very happy with the deal we made.
Is your instinct that he will put pressure, that he will try and get them to
ask him to put pressure, because I don't need favors. I think he will. I think automatically he'd like to see it opened up. He gets about 40% of his energy or his oil from that, from the strait. We get none. We don't need it.
Mr. President, on Truth Social, you said that President Xi had made a reference to the decline of the U.S. We didn't hear him say that. Maybe it was something he said in private to you. So what was it, first of all, that he said that prompted you?
He made a statement. It might not have been from him. It was somebody, but they talked about the decline. But he said today, and he said it very publicly, he said the U.S. was declining for the last 4 years. And he said what President Trump has done in the last 15, 16 months has been virtually a miracle. He said we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. But he said that it was a declining country. Under Joe Biden, he said we had a seriously declining country, which we did, with people pouring in from all over the world, from prisons and everything else. He said what President Trump has done has been a virtual miracle. It's the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is, yeah.
On a different subject, on Cuba, there's reporting that Raul Castro could be indicted by the DOJ, I believe. What does that mean?
Well, I don't want to comment on that. I'll let DOJ comment on it. But they need help, as you know. And you talk about a declining country. They are really a nation or a country in decline. So we're going to see. We have a lot to talk about on Cuba, but not maybe for today.
Tariffs, Mr. President. Did you agree with President Xi to extend that year-long truce on tariffs?
We didn't discuss tariffs. They're paying tariffs. They're paying substantial tariffs, but we didn't discuss it. Before I came along, it was the opposite. We didn't discuss tariffs.
How come?
It wasn't brought up.
Mr. President, you said in January to us that you were going to bring up the expansion of their nuclear program. Obviously, they've got 600 weapons now, by the Pentagon's estimate, going to 1,500. Did that come up? Did you succeed in getting them into any form of arms control? Or remember we discussed New
You're talking about China.
China.
We brought it up, the denuclearization. I talk about it Russia and with China. And it did come up. We did discuss that.
And what did you conclude?
I don't know. I got a very positive response since the beginning. We're going to be together 4 times potentially this year. We have the G20, which he wants to come to, which I'd like him to come to. It's going to be in Miami. It's going to be in Doral. And it's going to be, I think, very good. Much more important if he's there. And so you have the G20. We have one that he has, as you know, in November in China. He's asked me to be there. I'm going to try and be there. And then we have another one on September, I guess, 26th or 24th, where he's coming into the White House.
I'm trying to understand what it is he committed to, if he committed anything.
Well, I don't want to say anybody committed, but we have a very good understanding.
So are you going to
the
move
concept of denuclearization.
Denuclearization or just an extension
Well, no,
of
a
the start?
denuclearization.
In other words, building down.
And you bring Russia into it also. But the concept of that is something would be very good.
Sir, can I ask you about the political prisoners in China? Did you bring up with President Xi any of the political prisoners in China? Are any going to be released? Any progress?
I think he's giving very serious consideration to the pastor. The pastor is said he's giving very serious consideration to that.
What about Jimmy
I discussed it.
What about Jimmy Lai?
It's a tougher one. I did bring it up. It's a tougher one. For him, it's a tougher one.
What did he say about
I
it?
understand it. It's, for him, it's a very... He told me, I don't want to mislead anybody. He said Jimmy Lai is a tough one for him to do. He went through a lot. And right or wrong, they went through a lot. So he told me that would be a tough one. He said he's going to strongly consider the past.
Sir, can I ask you 2 on technology? First, computer chips, advanced computer chips like the H200s that Jensen has. Did that come up at all with machine?
It didn't come up, but as you know, Jensen was there. He's an amazing guy, NVIDIA. And he would be inclined. They have much higher level than the H200. But the H200 is good. China needs it. And so, yeah, it came up.
They haven't bought it
We
so
haven't
far.
much, no, because they chose not to. They want to try and develop their own. But it did come up, and I think something could happen on that.
And then on artificial
They
intelligence,
have quite a bit higher level. But the H200 it's a great chip.
and then on artificial intelligence, what is it that you want to get done? Did you bring up
We did. We talked. We're leading by a lot, but they're second, and they're very strong. And we talked about possibly working together for guardrails.
And what
And
kind
he's
of guardrails?
very.
What kind of guardrails?
The
do you
standard
want?
guardrails that we talk about all the time. AI is fantastic. So many things can happen in terms of health and medicine and operations, everything. Military, and so many things can happen, but it's also got some drawbacks, and we're talking about, we probably will. We're going to work together. We had a very good conversation about a lot of stuff.
So biological, nuclear,
Could be, yeah.
cyber. Did you specifically discuss those risks?
We discussed, I would say, almost everything you could discuss except for a reduction of tariffs.
Right, okay. On Iran, Mr. President, just to be clear, I mean, what's next? Is the threat of the bombing starting again? How realistic is
I
that?
don't want to say that. I mean, I'd like to tell you. I'd like to say on a certain hour, a certain day, the bombing is going to start. I don't want to say that. I can only say that Iran, I can say this with very, very strong conviction, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Not going to happen.
President, what would the use
They
be?
have no chance.
What would the use be of repeating the bombing? You did it for 38 days.
Well, no, we did.
And you did not get the political changes in Iran.
No, I had a total military victory, but
Not
the
a
fake
political-
news, guys like you write incorrectly. You're a fake guy, and guys like you write about it incorrectly. We had a total military victory. We knocked out their entire Navy. We knocked out their entire Air Force. We knocked out all of their anti-aircraft weaponry. We knocked out all of their radar. We knocked out all of their leaders, number one, and then we knocked out all of their leaders in the 2nd Division, and we knocked out numerous of their leaders in the 3rd Division, and they're very confused. We've had a total victory, except by people like you that don't write the truth. You know, you should write. I actually think it's sort of treasonous what you write, but you and the New York Times and CNN, I would say, are the worst.
So on another
And
war.
you should know better, David. You know, you're a
On a
professor.
subject-
You know better. Your editors tell you what to write, and you write it. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Subject of another war. Is there any
I actually think it's treason when you write like they're doing well militarily and they have no Navy, no Air Force, no anti-anything. By the way, we manufacturing for the missiles. We knocked out everything. We haven't knocked out other than one bridge that we did because they misbehaved. But we have bridges we could knock out. We could knock out their bridges and their electrical capacity within 2 days. We could knock out the whole thing. And then I read the New York Times and they act like they're doing well. And everybody knows it. That's why your subscribers are way down. You know, the Times subscribers are way down because it's fake news.
Did you discuss
Way
Ukraine?
down, way down.
Did you discuss Ukraine at all with President Xi? And is there any movement on that?
I did.
What did he say?
We discussed, well, it's one that we'd like to see settled. And until last night, it was looking good, but they took a big hit last night. So it's going to happen, but it's a shame. 25,000 people died last month. Yeah.
Admiral Cooper of CENTCOM was asked yesterday about the strike on the girls' school on the first day of the war.
Oh, it's under investigation. You're talking about the original.
It was the only case of investigation at the moment into civilian
I
casualties.
think we have a couple of things under investigation, but that is under investigation.
Are you able to confirm yet that it was a US missile?
Who you with?
BBC for the radio.
Fake BBC. You mean the ones that put AI in my mouth? The ones that gave me, had me saying a statement that they now admit was not true? That the ones that put terrible words in my mouth and then had to admit that it was fake? The ones that are being sued now for $5 billion and don't know what to do? You're with BBC? They're another fake outfit.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you about the deals in China? Did you get a deal on soybeans? You know, the farmers.
The farmers are going to be very happy. They're going to be buying billions of dollars of soybeans. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about Britain, but Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister there, is in a lot of trouble. I know you were asked about this the other day.
Well, he's in trouble for two reasons: energy and immigration. He's very bad on energy. He should open up the North Sea. He's got a coal mine, and he should open up oil in the North Sea, and he doesn't. They have a tremendous value. You know, they buy their oil, a lot of it, from Norway. Norway gets it from the North Sea. Not as good an area as Scotland and the UK has. So they're paying Norway a fortune for oil that they take out of the North Sea.
Do you think Starmer's going to survive as Prime Minister?
A tough thing, unless he can straighten out immigration where he's weak, and if he doesn't start drilling and stop with the windmills all over the place that are causing havoc. They're causing havoc. Most expensive form of energy. They kill the birds. They're unsightly. They're ruining the landscape. If he doesn't stop with the windmills, he's got to do energy. He's got to open up the North Sea. You know, he's got one of the greatest oil finds anywhere in the world, and he's not using it. And I tell him that. He's not using it.
Should he quit?
The oil companies call me every day. Please, please, we want to go to the North Sea. He doesn't allow it to happen.
Should he quit?
I don't say that. I think he's a nice man, actually. But, I mean, I didn't like when he said, we're going to send ships as soon as you're finished with the war, as soon as you're... Well, we're sort of finished militarily, pretty much. But we, you know, David, we finished probably 70-75%. We didn't finish every one of the things. We'll go back and finish them off. And by the way, and more than that.
You saw the reporting on the missile capability, missile launchers that have remained. Does that seem accurate to you?
No, it's New York Times fake news. The missile launches are probably 80% gone. The New York Times said it's like we were hitting them like pinatas. The missile launches are largely gone. The manufacturing of missiles is about 80%, 80 to 85% gone. And we know where the rest of it. So if we go in, we'll take that out very early.
The intelligence reports seem to indicate, though, that
There are no intelligence reports. Not for they weren't intelligence reports. They were New York Times fake news.
Sir, would you consider lifting the sanctions on Chinese oil companies that buy Iranian oil?
Well, we talked about that, and I'm going to make a decision over the next few days. We did talk about that.
Do you think Xi felt stronger in his dealings with you than he did the last time that you
Great
went to
relationship
China?
last time until COVID came along. You know, I blame them for that. I I said it was Wuhan, and I was right. And, look, that was a strain on everybody, COVID. And so, it affected our relationship at the time. But we always had a great relationship before that and after that. And now it's as strong as ever. I mean, I went over to where he lives, which is something that rarely happens. Were you there? I don't know.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It was amazing. I mean, people have never seen it before. It's amazing, actually. We had lunch. We have a great understanding.
You don't think he feels
it's a very positive thing to have these two nations getting along.
Mr. President, on Taiwan again, you said you were going to check with the president of Taiwan, but the 1982 assurances that President Reagan gave said the United States would not consult with China on arms sales to Taiwan. So it sounds to me like you have consulted
Well, I
with
think
China.
1982 is a long way.
It was?
That's a big far distance
You
away.
dispensed with them?
No, I didn't say anything about it, but certainly, he brought that up. He talked about that to me, obviously. So what am I going to do? Say I don't want to talk to you about it because I have an agreement that was signed in 1982. No, we discussed arms sales too.
And what's his request?
We discussed to Taiwan. The whole thing with the arms sales was in great detail, actually. And I'll be making decisions.
What was his request?
But I think the last thing we need right now is a war. That's 9,500 miles away. I think that's the last thing we need. We're doing very well.
Would the US defend Taiwan if it came to it?
I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say that. There's only one person that knows that. You know who it is? Me. I'm the only person. That question was asked to me today by President Xi. I said, I don't talk about those
He
things.
asked you today.
He asked you if you would send troops, if you would
He
defend.
asked me if I defend them. I said, I don't talk about that.
You told him that.
I don't talk
Did you talk to him about the cyber attacks that he's done in the United States or the MSS has done?
I did, and he talked about attacks that we did in China. What they do, we do too. It's like the spying. They're talking about, the spying. I said, well,
The spying
we do it
or
too.
the infrastructure?
Look, no, I'm talking about spying. The question was asked to me yesterday, I guess, what about the fact that China's spying in the United States? I said, well, it's one of those things because we spy like hell on them too.